Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the March webinar, the Bedroq Law Enforcement Briefing. Today we're here to talk about Bedroq VMS Gateway and third-party integrations. So the reason we've developed this solution that we're going to talk about today, one of our customers, as we mentioned before, is Greater Manchester Police, and they have quite a lot of third-party integrations in terms of CCTV. So they have cameras, camera feeds coming in from local councils and sports stadiums, shopping centres, things like that. And that really helps them in terms of operational visibility and a lot of other, operational policing benefits that we're going to talk about a little bit further down the line. So Greater Manchester Police are a customer of Bedroq Capture. So Bedroq Capture for CCTV is our private cloud-based CCTV solution, which is currently based on Milestone, but with other VMSs we are able to work with. And as we've been working with GMP, we've realised that they needed a standardised solution to be able to bring those third-party integrations into their CCTV environment in a more standardized way. Standardized in terms of how they actually do the integration, looking to give them better quality of feeds, more reliable, and actually give them more features, hopefully. So that's led on to what we now call Bedroq VMS Gateway. So currently there's a lot of police forces out there who are doing what we call screen scrapes or monitor splitting. And that is where they go to, let's say, a local council, and the local council have got a CCTV system. Let's say it's a Genetec system, and they will say add a computer to that system that's got, for example, 4 monitors on that one computer, and they will split the monitor outputs in HDMI or DVI, something like that. And they will basically take a copy of those monitor feeds and split it. So one of the HDMI cables would go off to the monitor, and the other one would go to a hardware encoder, which is a piece of equipment that takes a video signal and converts it into like an ONVIF format that a video management system will accept. So that's also called monitor splitting. Sometimes some forces call it different things, and that's great. You get some visibility of the cameras at the other end, but there's quite a lot of downsides to that. So one of them being, if you want to control the other end of that, you can do, but you also need to know how to operate that particular local council's video management system. So let's say, for example, your police force is on Milestone and the local council is on Genetec. Your operators in your control room then need to know how to work Milestone, but they also need to learn how to work Genetec so that they can change cameras, they can zoom in, they can do playback, that kind of thing. And it doesn't give them as good quality of feeds either. It's basically just a copy of the screen. You're stuck to having how many feeds you can fit on one screen. So let's say you wanted 16 cameras, you'd have to split that into 4 quad views, so 4 monitors of 4 cameras. So you'd actually only get a quarter of the resolution of each of those cameras. So it's not as good in many ways. So we were basically looking for a way of better integrating third-party CCTV for GMP, but also to develop it further for other customers as well, and something that we could roll out to new customers as well. So the other thing that it takes out of the equation is reliance on the third-party operators. So some of these councils don't give remote control. So let's say you have 4 feeds from a local council. They might not give you any remote control of that, so you might have to ring them every time you want a camera changing, and they might not be working 24/7. You might need something in the middle of the night that's really a quick change, so they might not be able to offer that. Whereas with our solution, you can have access to more cameras at once, and therefore you can just change the feed yourself as well. A lot of the times they don't also have any playback functions. So our system gives you that ability where you can get the agreement from the third party. We can actually record onto the device and then live stream the playback or allow you to do an export directly from the system. It basically lets you treat any of the third party's cameras as if they were your own. So yeah, really good solution. Quite excited about it to talk to you about it today. So we're going to move on slightly. So what is VMS Gateway? Well, it's a small device that we have made that can be deployed on any site. So it's suitable to go into large scale events like sporting events, concerts, things like that. But it can also be deployed as a permanent solution. So it's rack mountable as well. So you could go and put it into a council's server room alongside their CCTV system. It can be deployed on 5G or 4G. So to get you up and running quickly, you can deploy it on that to start off with. And then if it becomes a permanent installation, you can have a broadband or a leased line installed, and you can permanently connect it that way to give you more features, more cameras at once, that kind of thing. So we encrypt all of the traffic locally at rest. So all of the data is stored encrypted. So if you do get permissions from the third party to record, they are stored in an encrypted fashion. But also we encrypt the traffic in transit as well. So when it's on its way back to your environment, it's also encrypted there. We only connect to the required parts of your network and the third party's network in an isolated fashion. So what that means is we have the absolute minimum amount of communication between the device and the third party and the device and your network as well. So it's double firewalled as well. So there's a firewall on site with the equipment that controls the traffic between the third party system and the device. And then there's a firewall back in your environment or in your private cloud environment with us. So it's double protected effectively. We also monitor it for security and any errors, and we can have that on our normal service level agreement with police, which is 24/7, 365 days a year. And we can have any kind of events on that trigger an automatic call out for one of our engineers. So moving on to how it works then. So there's a few steps to this. The first is that we connect the device to the third party's CCTV. So that's a physical installation of the device, plugging into either their network or into their video management system. So some video management systems have the capability to output directly to this system, which is great, but it is compatible with any camera system because there are other ways that we can do this as well. So we can take feeds directly from cameras, we can take them from relay servers, which we can also install, or we can take them directly from the video management system. So connecting the device is part of the service. We would send one of our engineers to do that connection for you, or you can deploy it yourself if that's what you would like to do. So the next is that the VMS gateway then adds a security layer between your CCTV and theirs. As I talked about on the previous slide, it is double firewalled and it uses the minimum level of communication. So depending on the solution on that particular site, we'll connect it to the cameras or the VMS or the relay server in a different way. So we also do that as part of the service, and we check that security layer to make sure it's the absolute minimum requirement. Next, it then connects back to your CCTV system. So that is using a secure VPN, which we use AES-256 encryption on, following all of the NCSC guidelines for building that VPN, ensuring that your system is up to the most recent specifications in terms of security. So then where permission has been given from the third party, we allow the device to record video on site. So that the device will actually cache video. We can do that for 90 days. We can do it for 200 days. It depends on your requirements. Some third parties won't want that to be done at all. Some third parties we've found will agree to that. So we can tailor the amount of storage depending on how much you need on that. And then the device will stream live and playback footage, video back to your own VMS. So you can on demand choose a camera as though it was one of your own cameras. And stream it live. You can click to play it back in the normal way, just as you would any of your other cameras. So let's say you've got one of your building CCTV cameras on one screen. You're selecting one of the third-party cameras is exactly the same. So you just drag and drop it into the window. You can click to do playback, and we're going to look at that in a minute. So important notes here is it's not an all or nothing solution. So you don't have to take every camera from the third party. So that's quite beneficial because some third parties will be a little bit cautious of how much access they give you. This is a completely tailorable solution. So let's say the third party has 100 cameras in their local council area on traffic signs and light, lampposts, CCTV columns, that kind of thing. They might only want to give you access to say 20 of those, and that's absolutely fine. We can tailor the system to just take the 20, or we can take all 100. It depends on your requirements and the requirements of the third party. And that's quite beneficial to the third party because we provide all of the details of how this device works, how the security aspects of it works. We're very upfront about it, and we'll present a solution to them in order to get their agreement to sign off on this integration. To them, it gives them the benefit of giving the police more coverage. So if they've got a crime hotspot area that some of their residents are complaining about, they can give you the visibility that you need to more effectively combat that crime. It saves a lot of time with back and forth inquiries, you going back and asking for CCTV downloads from a certain area. You can do quick reviews of, let's say, a theft from shop or something like that. At the moment, you might have to drive out to that shop or to drive out to the council and look at the camera that's outside of it. Whereas with our system, you'd be able to just click on a camera, click onto playback, choose the date and time, and away you go. And obviously, the benefit to the police is tremendous there. Really, there's a lot of time saving. It's instant access rather than so you can do your inquiries a lot quicker rather than that travel time being a part of the inquiry. You've just got instant access. Officers can even access these feeds from their phone or their tablet devices, laptops, whatever it is that you need them to be able to access it from. We can make that work. So the benefits of integration then, for me, one of the standout features of this is that it's a single system for operators. When I've worked in police control rooms myself, I know that you have to learn how to use a lot of different computer systems, and that's before you even get to CCTV. So when you start taking feed from third parties and you have to learn 5 different video management systems, and you might not use one of them for months and months, but then when you need to use it, it might be in the middle of the night and it's late, short notice, you need to get an image on the screen quickly. You might not be able to remember how to do it, and you might end up having to read through manuals or guides that people have created for you. Whereas with this system, the cameras are native to your system. You just drag and drop. You can put them up on video walls. You can send them to an officer's handset. You can take a screenshot. You can print a picture out. You can download footage, export with encryption, all kinds of stuff really. So that kind of moves me on to distribution. Distribution meaning if you've got a video wall system or a current feed distribution system of sharing it to other police forces, then these feeds will work in that way as well. It gives much higher quality and stability, so the quality of the feeds is much better, the image quality is better, and because of the deeper level of integration, the stability is a lot better as well. There's much less likelihood of a cable getting knocked at the third party's control room and it knocking out your encoder. We also monitor all of the systems as well, so it might be that there's a power outage at the site, but we would know about it first and we can help you rectify that. So yeah, much better. Officer safety, the more visibility you've got, the more access to cameras that you've got, the better it is for officer safety. And that's the same in terms of resource planning and dispatch. Because we can give you access to more camera feeds at once, it's much easier for you to do that resource planning. You might be able to, let's say you might get a call to a pub fight, and we all know that people who call in pub fights might often say, oh, there's 50 guys fighting outside the pub, and then somebody turns up and it's just two blokes rolling around in the car park. Well, actually, if you can look at those cameras before you dispatch people, then you might be able to send the right amount of resources for the job. And that's just one example. There's obviously lots of examples out there for that kind of thing. And operational visibility. So actually being able to really quickly identify which camera you need is absolutely key, which brings us nicely onto the next slide. So this is a little demo video of how the system actually works. So as you can see, all the cameras are just plotted onto a map. So this is demo footage from GMP's environment, which they've given us permission to use. As you can see there, they've just got access to, they've got a map of all the cameras that they've got access to. This is just one example of their integrations. So you can just click on a camera, so it actually shows you the name of the camera. So as you can see, one of them says turnstiles there. So an officer who has no experience of this system whatsoever can just zoom in on this map, double click onto a camera, and away they go. And from there, they could easily do playback. If the third party has agreed to that, they could just click on to rewind that camera either by 10 minutes or 2 days. The difference is, it makes no difference basically. Also, if the third party has agreed to it and we've configured it for you, they can have PTZ control. So one of those cameras might be just slightly positioned to off from where you want it to look at. So you might be able to just zoom in onto an incident and have a quick look at that and then come back. Yeah, the possibilities are endless really. So as I mentioned before, this solution doesn't have to be for fixed locations like you see here. It can actually just be for a rapid deployment thing. For a temporary event, we can do that as well. It can come back on 5G or 4G as well. So and with all the same features. But where you want a permanent solution, it would obviously be better to have a fixed permanent line. Just move on to the next slide. So this is just a quick overview of what the feeds actually look like when they're in your system. As I said, that if you're familiar with Milestone, you'll see that these cameras are some of the third-party feeds, and they're just like any other camera. You can create quad views, you can distribute them to video walls, all that kind of thing. And as you can see, when one's full screen, it is much higher quality than they would normally get from a third-party integration. So moving on to how your data is secured then. So we have engineers at a minimum of NPPv3. That's the absolute baseline requirement for anybody who works at Bedroq. At the minimum for anybody who works on a police system is SC clearance, and we also have DV engineers as well. So anybody who could potentially support your system is vetted and also highly trained as well. So we follow all of the National Cyber Security Centre principles, and we use their Cyber Essentials accreditation for every solution in our data centre, but also anything that we deploy on site as well would also follow the same principles. We are ISO 27001 accredited for information management, for secure information management of people's data. We have 2 redundant data centres in the UK, which are both Home Office and Police approved data centres. We're also a UK Police approved secure facility. And as I mentioned previously, we use AES-256 encryption both at rest and in transit. And that makes us we follow all of the NCSC guidelines in every design, everything that we develop here. So sometimes you might get a third party who wants even more assurance than what we provide just out of the box. So for when that is the case, we've partnered with Secure for a data diode solution. So what a data diode is a clever piece of equipment that sits in between two networks, and it removes one of the communication channels so that data can only flow in one direction. That creates a physical air gap between two networks. And for example, this is how GCHQ, MI5, counterterrorism policing, all of those kind of three-letter agencies, that's how they connect different systems of different accreditations. So for example, they might need a data transfer mechanism between an official sensitive network and a secret network, or a secret network to a top secret network. And how they do that is they have one of these one-way data diodes in between those two networks. So we can also incorporate one of these solutions into Bedroq VMS Gateway to give you that extra assurance with a third party and to gain that trust that makes them make the decision to allow it, basically. So a brief summary of what we've talked about today, and then we'll take some questions. We are offering a high security solution here that is rapidly deployable, easy to use. It gives you instant access to live video feeds, instant access to playback footage, and PTZ control if you require it as well. If you'd like to hear more about this solution, please book in with us for a call. We'll be sending out a recording of this webinar at the end. So if you'd like to talk to us, please reply to the email and I'll get in touch with you. So we're going to check for some questions now. So I have got one here. How do you introduce this to third parties? So that is part of how this idea was formed, really. So we were going out to third parties seeking permission to integrate with existing solutions like screen scrapes, that kind of thing. And it was effectively us negotiating a solution rather than us going to them with a fixed solution that's the same standard every time. So we decided to look for one standard solution that would work for every platform, and therefore we would be going armed with a fixed solution that gives them the confidence to say yes to allowing the integration. So that's where this idea was born, really. And we don't actually get the agreements. It's still down to the police force to get those agreements. But what we've found so far is that having this standardized solution really gives them confidence to say yes much quicker. It gets the things like DPIAs and data sharing agreements running much smoother. It gives your information managers at these organisations much more confidence, and they're much happier to sign things off. So we do get involved with the meetings, and we're always happy to present to the third parties to give them the confidence. But yeah, it is still down to you guys to actually introduce it, to make those links, and to get the agreements effectively. So thanks for that. And if you'd like to get in touch with us about that question, I'd be happy to have a further call about it. Thank you. Let's have another look here, see what the questions we've got. Our local council uses Bosch cameras. Would it work with those? Yes, absolutely. So it doesn't actually matter what cameras the council uses or what recording system they use. The method of us connecting this will slightly differ, but the actual standard solution is effectively the same. So we can still present it as the same standardized solution, regardless of what manufacturers they use. But yeah, it works with every camera. It can work with analog cameras. There's many ways that we can do that. We can bring in feeds from anything like body cameras. If they've got access to body cameras, that's fine. Internal shop cameras, we can do that. Doesn't need to be local authorities. It can be businesses. We can do integrations with shops. In fact, some of the some retail stores have much better CCTV systems than local councils. So some restaurant chains have centralized solutions where if you could get agreement, we could plug into one central site and get you access to cameras that are all across the country. The possibilities are endless, really. But yeah, absolutely, we can work with any manufacturer. And again, if you'd like to talk about that further, please get in touch. Thank you very much for your question. I'm just going to have a check for any more on that. Yeah, that's all for now. So thank you very much, everybody. Look forward to seeing you all again soon.